Hello and welcome to Aspen Affairs, the public affairs show from the Aspen Chamber Resort Association. I'm your host, Debbie Braun, President and CEO of the Aspen Chamber. I am really excited because you're watching Election 2024, Informed and Empowered, our series on the fall election where we highlight voter resources, share key election information, and break down issues you'll find on your ballot. You can learn more and watch all the episodes online at aspenchamber.org/elections. Today's guest is Toni Kronberg, a candidate for Pitkin County Commissioner. Toni, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, Deb, thanks so much for having me on your show on GrassRoots.
We have worked together, I swear, for 25 years, but me from a chamber perspective and you as a private citizen. So, Toni, in your decades in the Valley, you've actually been really civically engaged. I'd like to say you're a regular at public comment session and really engaged on community issues. What motivated you to make the leap to run for elected official?
Deb, you're right. I really do love this community, and I'm really committed to bringing forward projects that benefit the citizens of Pitkin County, Aspen, Snowmass, and Basalt. One of my main projects has been transportation.
Yes.
All along Highway 82 from downtown Aspen to the Emma Curves. And I read an article in one of the papers that the Pitkin County Commissioners were thinking about increasing the speed limit and putting a stoplight at Smith Hill Road, which is that intersection right by Cozy Point. Having been a medic for many years, I've been on quite a few accidents in that intersection back in the day when I was working the ambulance. And when I read that, I just went, there's a better solution. There's a better way to do this. And we really need to have someone at the table as an elected official that can help guide these decisions and come up with solutions. So that's really what prompted me to run for Pitkin County Commissioner.
Great. I really appreciate that. The Pitkin County Commissioners have put 3 initiatives on the ballot for this election season. There's an airport measure, a housing tax measure, and the landfill measure. Briefly, where do you stand on these issues?
Let's start with the landfill issue.
Yeah.
That's the easiest one.
I agree.
And that should be a definite yes, because it's a bonding question for improvements at the landfill, so there's no tax increase.
Okay.
The second question is the property tax increase to put into a reserve for affordable housing projects. While I've been out on the street talking to many people and going to their homes, they've expressed to me that they can't afford a tax for another 25 years. While it's for affordable housing, right now a lot of people are having difficulty meeting their ends. And as you know, the Pitkin County Assessor's Office this year, they had a record number of appeals for property tax. It was greater than the COVID and the recession back in 2008. Plus the schools pulled their ballot question because they heard from their constituents that people could not afford this tax. So the third one is the airport. And believe it or not, that is a really simple question, because the 2 questions are basically asking, who do you want to have the right to vote on the expansion of the airport? Question 200 is the Citizen Initiative Airport question, and they're basically just saying, should we as voters have the right to vote on the expansion of the runway? The second question, which is IC, which is the question that the Board of
2C?
I think it's 1C.
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 Yeah, I see 1C.
I see. We all see 3C. They're asking if the Board of County Commissioners can have the sole authority to make all decisions regarding the airport, including safety, the terminal, transportation issues, and also noise, traffic, and pollution mitigation. So that's really...
So they're reaffirming that power. They currently do have it. So is the ballot 1C saying they're affirming that power?
Yes, and what they have broad powers right now.
Yeah.
And what this particular ballot question is adding a subsection to the charter, giving them more specific and detailed powers of authority. For example, the airport layout plan, the transportation system, the infrastructure so far as the terminal goes, and then the pollution mitigation for the air quality, noise, and carbon offsets.
Got it.
So the county commissioners are asking for the authority on quite a few things, where the Citizens Initiative is just asking for a vote on the expansion of any future runway. But quite simply, if you get down to it, is that do you as the citizens, the voters, want to have the right to vote on the expansion of the airport, or do you want the Board of County Commissioners to have the right to vote on the expansion of the airport? So it's basically a right to vote question.
Mm-hmm.
It's either you or the county commissioners.
Yeah, well, you do vote for the county commissioners, so you're asking those commissioners, if you were elected, you would be representing a constituency. So do we feel it's redundant if I'm electing you to make best interest decisions on the airport, and then I'm also voting on it?
So one of my
Just out of curiosity.
one of the basic tenets in my philosophy towards life and living here in America is we need to respect the right to vote.
Yes.
No matter what the issue is, and we have a constitutional right to bring forward an amendment to the Home Rule Charter. So,
But isn't the Home Rule Charter like a constitution?
It is.
We really shouldn't take changing it lightly. And so it's interesting that both questions are about the charter.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I would say it'd be nice just to have an airport, but we don't always get what we want, right? We don't just get an up down on an airport. There's a lot of nuances to all of it.
yes, and as you know, I worked at the airport for over 20
Yeah.
years,
Yes.
so I'm really familiar with what needs to be done with it.
Yeah.
But again, it's the right to vote, and it's do the citizens want the right to vote on it, or do you want the Board of Pitkin County Commissioners to have the right to vote on it? And
Well, they not the right to vote, because they currently do have the right to vote,
Right.
correct? Yeah.
well, the ballot question is worded.
Yeah,
so.
it's like reaffirming some power there. Yeah, there are three really important questions, and I wonder because you're going to be walking into, if you're elected, into some really big, heady issues inside of our community. So I think it's great that anyone would put their name forward to do that. So thank you. Pitkin County thrives on tourism, but it also faces challenges related to maintaining economic sustainability for the locals. How will you include the needs of business and workforce and residents in making decisions making should you be elected?
So Pitkin County is facing many of the same issues that communities with big resorts face.
Yeah.
And that is over-tourism and second-family homes popping up with higher prices and displacing locals and closing up mom-and-pop shops. If I'm elected, when I'm elected to the board, hopefully, that I will definitely focus on retaining our local workforce and our local businesses, because that's the soul of our community. They're the people who actually live here that you see every single day.
Well, I just have to ask then, because if we're supporting our locals, we need to house them, but you're not in favor of the housing tax because you think it'll be too detrimental to the locals that are here?
So I'm definitely in support of affordable housing.
Okay.
But I don't think it's a prudent time right now to ask for the tax because of the fact that there were so many appeals for the assessor's office. I think there was 4,712 appeals, which is a third of the property owners in town. And when you think about a 25-year increase when people right now are having hardships, that's a tough pill for people to swallow.
I also think, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I also think it's really interesting, too, when people throw the word over-tourism around. Like, we started that in our own industry, and now we're like, it's really visitor pressure, because you don't have over-tourism 365 days of the year. You sort of have visitor pressure during these peak periods, right? But since COVID, we're seeing our numbers drop. And you and I have been in the community forever, right? Mm-hmm. So you start to see your visitors number drop. Nobody's really paying attention to it. And then all of a sudden it's an emergency. And we have to then market because everything has dropped down. There's got to be probably like a happy medium in there, right? Where we aren't so susceptible to too many people or not enough people. And we tried to address that through the Aspen Destination Management Plan. But so many of the resorts, I agree, we all are facing housing, healthcare, property taxes, quality of life, really big issues. How are you going to help?
Okay.
Because I think you want to.
Oh, for sure. And
Yeah.
I work in the resort industry, and I work with a lot of second-family homeowners,
Okay.
as well as locals.
Yeah.
And they're two communities, and they both have communities, which is really wonderful.
Yeah, it's like an ecosystem here, right?
It is. It's really wonderful to see.
Yeah.
And what I see happening more is we have like more second-family homeowners who are really invested in our community. They love coming here.
Yeah.
They like to spend their money. They come and they leave. They come and they leave.
Yeah.
They bring their kids here. And because Aspen is such a wholesome community.
Yeah.
It really is. And then I just wanted to touch base on the affordable housing issue.
Yeah.
Because that is the #1 priority.
Okay.
For most people, all surveys will say
Yeah.
affordable housing, affordable housing.
And transportation.
So that's the next thing. So affordable housing, that can take a while to develop. But the real stressor on people is transportation. It's the commute. It's people who live down valley, they don't, that's where they live, but it's the commute which is really onerous on people. It takes away, I've had people say, a couple, 2 kids, they live down in Woody Creek. And they're like, oh, my business took me up towards Independence Pass. I didn't have my cell phone, reception, and I could not get through town in time to pick my kids up at school. And the teachers called, and of course the parents got chastised because they couldn't make it through the traffic. The traffic issue for me is the driving force of why I decided to run for Pitkin County Commissioner. And it's everything from Emma Curves all the way to Main Street in Aspen. At Castle Creek Bridge, the Buttermilk, the Lumberyard housing, the airport, Brush Creek, Smith Hill Road, if you just keep going down Lazy Glen.
Yeah. It's a lot of aging infrastructure we're looking at. It's almost like we've kicked the can too far, and now we got to pay the piper and really step up to the plate.
And this is very interesting, but in the 50 years that I've been here, that we've been here, there's not been one Board of County Commissioners, Pitkin County Commissioners, that have made Highway 82 their #1 priority. I want to change that. I'm really passionate about that when I see the hardships that people waiting in line for 45 minutes from the airport to go into town, and then that's an hour and a half out of your day.
Yeah.
That's like a part-time job, just getting from the airport into town.
Well, honestly, during COVID, when we were all in lockdown and we had to continue to work, but we didn't have to do the commute, I got my Christmas cards out in November. I did, you had all this time that you recaptured, up to 3 hours, because I live Mid-Valley, up to 3 hours of your day was recaptured, and you just didn't feel so frantic all the time.
You have a good work-life balance.
Yeah.
And that's something that Pitkin County really strives for,
Yeah.
is a work-life balance, not only for their employees, but for the community.
Yeah.
So when I realized that, as you know, the City of Aspen pulled the ballot question on changing rural to open space for use of transportation, that's actually a very good thing. That was a blessing in disguise, because the preferred alternative, which is the straight shot going into Aspen, also puts a stoplight at the end of Cemetery Lane, so you would never be able to make a right-hand turn to go to the schools or the hospital. Mm-hmm. So that's actually going to force everyone around through the subdivisions back onto Main Street. And the Jacobs engineering report that was done, that CDOT validated and said they did a good job with it, said that the outgoing traffic in the afternoons was going to increase by 10%, at least 10%. So we're just making that situation worse.
What do the county commissioners, what do you think they should be doing about that? Because, that's usually it's CDOT and the city. So where does the county have a role in that?
So the county was actually part of the IGA agreement with the record of decision.
Okay.
And the county, the current Board of County Commissioners, they wanted to come up with a resolution supporting the preferred alternative. And I'm not really sure if they really read the report, so to speak, to find out that that's not the solution that we need. What I would like to do when I'm elected, if I'm elected, is to have the Pitkin County Commissioners and City Council get together and discuss a transportation solution, what I'm referring to as a transportation corridor. So the City of Aspen's been focusing on the Castle Creek Bridge and crossing the Marolt open space. That's not going to do anything with the backups at the roundabout, like Maroon Creek coming down and also Castle Creek Bridge. You can't get through that in the afternoons. And then it doesn't do anything with the traffic at the airport. What's really fascinating to me is that Pitkin County Commissioners are working on an airport layout plan with the transportation. The City of Aspen just approved basically 600 beds in the lumberyard project. And the only traffic mitigation that they have right now is a stoplight out of the lumberyard housing into traffic that's already stopped. Plus, they're going to have a bus every 30 minutes, but that bus is still stuck back in the roundabout. So what I would like to do is get the Board of Pitkin County Commissioners, City of Aspen, and Snowmass Village to come together and jointly plan that transportation corridor. And that is a solution. But, you know, I'm glad that you brought that up, Debbie, because on October 24th, the elected officials are actually going to have their first meeting in over a year. It's called the Elected Officials Transportation Committee.
EOTC.
EOTC, here we go, 30
Yeah.
years in its making. And what's great about that organization is it gives the opportunity for all three jurisdictions to get together and to say, this is what we need to do. Like the Twin Bridges, for example, coming out of the airport to Rio Grande Trail, and the second bridge coming out of Brush Creek going over to Rio Grande Trail. Those two bridges are really important for part of the connectivity from Snowmass to Rio Grande. You can either go down Valley or up to Aspen. And then from the Airport Business Center, where the lumberyard housing is going to be built, a lot of people are not going to want to have to get into traffic that they can't get into because it's already stopped. So in the spring, summer, and fall, they can opt to get on their bikes and, you know, take the Rio Grande Trail into town.
I know that the proponents of the airport talk about the multimodal transportation that they want to get and the innovation from people moving from the airport into town. So that's exciting to hear many people in our community say, hey, we need to solve this problem, because we can't solve it in a silo. Really, we have to be together. Do you have any particular projects that you're most passionate about in your campaign platform? I mean, let me just think for a minute. Transportation.
It's not a swimming pool.
Housing. I was going to have be funny and say we should take a drink every time we say the gondola from the airport. Yeah, right. I didn't bring anything. Do you still think that's a good idea?
In fact, Deb, that is part of my campaign.
It is?
It is.
Okay.
Because once the city council pulled the ballot question about crossing rural to open space, because with that preferred alternative, there's not enough asphalt. Or even any solution that they might pick, there's still not enough asphalt for the existing number of cars that we have. So what makes sense is an aerial connection, a mass transit. It's emissions free, it's free, you don't have to wait for it. It fits in with our environment, it's climate friendly, we can save the snow with it. So what I've done with part of my campaign is when I've been speaking with people, they're like, I can't get into town, what am I gonna do? You know, and I'm like, well, I'm working on a project, it's called Aspen Highway 82 Sky Cab. And it originates from Ruby Park, and it goes down Durant, crosses over Shadow Mountain, comes the backside of Merrill to open space, over close to the Holden Merrill. And then the beauty of it is it runs parallel with Highway 82. It stops off at Buttermilk and the lumberyard housing, the airport, and it goes to Brush Creek Park and Ride. And then there would be a connection to Snowmass, the rec center, and then Snowmass Town Center, Base Village, and the mall. And then there'd also be a leg to Highlands. Now, can you imagine the marketing tool that we have zero emissions mass transit aerial connection that connects our 4 ski areas with the airport plus affordable housing? There would never be another transportation system in the world that can include all of those entities.
Yeah, it's pretty grand and kind of cool, but we got to get the airport modernization going so we can add all of those like components into it, I think.
And the great thing would be the record of decision has multimodal locations for the light rail, and one of them's right at the airport. And the amended layout plan that was submitted to the FAA, they have land banked a certain area in front of the terminal for a mass transit system. We haven't gotten that far yet to figure out what that mass transit system is. So as part of my campaign, I've been collecting signatures to show support for the aerial connection to be presented to the elected officials at their October 24th meeting.
So what it sounds like to me is you're talking about innovation, you're talking about the future, yet I find so many people are so dug into the past when it comes to the airport, as an example. And for all the exciting things that you talk about, we have to kind of look at the airport a little bit differently than, just, this private in and out with, because I think there's just so much commercial activity. There's so many of us that are using it, and I would love to be a part of something that's really innovative and kind of solidifies us being the leaders in something,
Yes.
not necessarily, be dug back in the past, and nothing personal to anyone who really is holding on to the past. I respect that, and I think they're doing that for, reasons that they hold near and dear. But I just don't know a community that hasn't innovated as much as Aspen, and I feel like we've stalled on our innovation recently, and we should get back in the game. Yeah.
We definitely have. And what really surprises me is that up to this point in time, I don't believe there's been one elected official who's been willing to take a look at an aerial connection. And that really surprises me. One, because we are a ski town, and people use the gondolas all the time to get to the top of the mountain, for something to eat, to go to the bike park, forest, wherever. And I'm not quite sure why. I think maybe they think it's too big of a project, but it's really not.
But that's what we do.
We do projects.
Big, hairy projects like that. Well, we're about to wrap up, but do you have any meet and greets or opportunities for people to learn more about you and your candidacy?
I do.
Okay.
And I apologize because I have not firmed up the dates yet.
Okay.
But I will be having 2 locations in Basalt,
Great.
1 in Redstone, 2 in Snowmass, 3 in Aspen, and am I missing? We've got Pitkin County, and then Pitkin County is Aspen, Snowmass,
Right.
Basalt, and Redstone.
Website?
No, not yet.
How do people find you?
I've been doing a lot of meet and greets by going to people's homes.
Okay.
But that's a really good question. But I have a little postcard.
Okay.
It has my phone number on it.
Got it.
With my email address, so they can always contact me that way.
Tell me what your email address is.
Okay, so I'm going to Toni, T-O-N-I,
Okay.
.waterbabies@gmail.com.
I've had that for a while.
Because about 40 years now.
Yeah.
Because I teach kids swimming. So
Yep.
it's Toni.waterbabies@gmail.com. My phone number, I'm more than willing, it's 970-379-1519. Again, 970-379-1519. And I am going to have some meet and greets, Deb, over at the Library Park Plaza, which is in front of the library, of course, and the City Hall. And that was one of my toughest campaigns, but one of my most proudest, is that we actually saved the open space, in town open space in front of City Hall.
Not enough people know about that. I mean, those chairs and overlooking Red Mountain, it's just so peaceful and beautiful over there.
Well, I started that effort
I remember
25 years ago, I think 30 years ago. And the reason why is that a lot of parents are working in uptown Aspen, and the kids are playing at the field. And so I've always had this vision of knocking where your visitor center used to be, was knocking down that building so people can just walk and look down.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most beautiful views. And even with the Palm concert, that at nighttime you can stand there and look down into it.
It is pretty nice. Well, thanks everybody for watching this episode of Aspen Affairs 2024, Informed and Empowered. I'm Debbie Braun, president of the Aspen Chamber. You can watch all the episodes, learn more about local elections, and actually check your voter registration online at aspenchamber.org/elections. Thank you, GrassRoots. Yay. Thank you for your support. Until next time, stay informed and make your voice heard. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Deb. I really appreciate it. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.